Hello everyone, today we are celebrating the World Card Making Day. Welcome to a new video, it's Bibi Cameron here, and today I will be sharing some Christmas projects using this beautiful stamp set called SWELL Christmas and also this stencil called DAMASK. Okay, so these are the projects I'm sharing with you today. I have applied a fun and easy technique to add colors to the backgrounds using stencils, gesso, and distress inks, and I'm also going to share with you a technique to add color to stamped images using coloring pencils and water-based markers or watercolors. You will also find loads of tips in this video, so I hope you like it. So to start, I'm going to grab a piece of cardstock. This is an A4 sheet of cardstock, and I'm going to cut it in 4. So that's all I need to create my panels today. And I'm applying the distress inks on a laminating pouch. You can also use a cello bag. I'm applying water, and then I'm going to tap my paper on that ink, like so, and I'm going to use a heat tool to dry the ink. Once the ink is dry, I repeat the process, and what I'm trying to do is to get the impression of those droplets of ink with water that are on the plastic on my background. So I dry the paper and I tap the paper again on the ink, and like that I get that beautiful splotchy background. I'm using here BRISTOL paper, and to create the other panels I use regular smooth cardstock. So you can see the difference despite I applied the same technique. Maybe I was a little bit impatient, I didn't allow the ink to dry properly between applications, but I'm not going to bother for that. And I like to keep this paper underneath a heavy acrylic block just to keep it flat. These are all the panels I made for today, but I'm not going to be using the purple one because it's not that Christmassy. So I'm going to start with this green one here, and this is the stencil. I'm going to use gesso. This is Prima matte gesso. It's not glossy, and I'm going to apply the gesso using this thin Holtz distress brush. I'm not going to apply a lot of pressure on that brush, but I need to make sure that I'm going through all the gaps in the stencil, and I'm going to try and avoid placing the stencil on an area in which the gesso is still fresh, and this is because I'm going to get gesso in the back of the stencil, and when I place it again on a background, that gesso is going to transfer on that background and you are going to be able to see it later. But if that happens, don't worry, it's all good. So now I'm going to bin this laminating pouch, and I'm going to clean my work surface and also my stencil, and I'm ready to go. I finished applying the gesso over these 4 panels. You won't be able to see the images that I have stenciled there, but you will be able to see them when we start revealing them by applying distress ink. I already applied a first coat of this distress ink, and I can come here and apply more and more ink in a very contrasting color, also a black color like this black SOOT distress ink. You are going to keep the green color which is underneath the gesso, because the gesso is going to resist the ink and it's going to protect the ink I applied initially. You will be also able to see the splatters of ink or any other effect you create with the inks underneath the gesso. I also found that Ice Spruce Distress Ink color is my favorite to apply an extra layer of color to reveal those images. It looks really, really nice. And I try another neutral color of Distress Ink, which is this Pumice Stone, to reveal those images on the yellow panel and on the blue panel. So despite I use the same ink, they look completely different. Okay, to add a nice decorative edge to these panels, I use this die by Honeybee Stamps, and I'm also using a circle die to cut this circle from craft foam and a larger one to cut a circle from cardstock. And I'm going to glue these craft foam circles behind the paper circle to be used as a dimensional. Now I'm going to be stamping the Santa face using Simon Says Stamp black ink, and all I have to do is just to place my stamp like so, make a lot pressure, keep the stamp a little bit on the cardstock so the ink is completely transferred to the paper, and I'm going to allow that ink to dry. I'm also going to be stamping this little image here from the stamp set using distress inks. You can see the colors in the screen in this moment. So I'm going to stamp a couple of leaves in each color, overlapping the images to create a little arrangement on each side of that circle, just like that. And the stamp set also has these beautiful little cherries that I'm going to stamp with a very red ink. And using this same ink, I'm going to stamp the banner, which is also an image from the stamp set. I'm going to try to tap the ink pad really gently on the stamp, and I'm going to keep it down like that using my stamping platform for a while until the ink transfers completely on that paper. So you can see there how nice that stamped image looks. As I'm making 4 cards today, I need to stamp another banners here. So I did that, and I'm going to trim these banners using scissors. This is very easy, it's a very simple shape. So cutting the banners is also very quick. The next I'm going to do is to add color to the Santa face. The first tip, which is a very silly one, but it's a first tip, is trying to place something smooth underneath your work, because if there is anything on that surface, you are going to transfer that onto your coloring. So the best thing to do is just grab something like a notebook or something and place it underneath your work. Then I'm going to apply colors in an oval motion, and I'm also going to lay down a shade here using a light brown or a caramel color, just like that. And once I have done that, I'm going to add color to the Santa cheeks. I'm going to add pink and red color on that area. I'm also going to apply color to the Santa lips and the hat, and I'm not being picky in the color application, so I'm just filling the image with color like that. I'm going to add gray to the Santa beard, and the tip too, get ready some baby oil to blend your colors. You can add baby oil in any moment to smooth the color, and you can apply more colors on top. I'm going to apply the oil in this case using this blending tool called paper blending stumps, just like that. And the only thing you need to bear in mind is to clean the paper stump when you are going to use it over different color areas. If you are coloring with red and then you are going to blend a gray area, you have to be careful because you can transfer that red color there. So that's all you have to bear in mind, but don't worry at all about this coloring here. You can see here all the coloring strokes, and that's fine. I also laid down some shades with black, and you can go over if you want with more color pencil, but it really doesn't matter because I'm going to bring my water-based markers and I'm going to add a layer of that color on top of these images, and that's going to transform completely these images. But before doing that, I want to show you something. The paper I use here to stamp these images is just beautiful. It's Whisper White Cardstock by STAMPtember. I have loads of that paper. It's a have to have. But when you apply the water-based marker on top and you try to blend it with a water brush, you will see that first stroke you apply on the paper, as you see there. Now I'm going to use Bristol paper. I'm going to create a stroke of this ink there, and I'm going to use the water brush, and you can see how nice that blends. You don't see the initial stroke you apply. So this paper here is not designed to apply watercolors, and that's what I have tried to say in every single video. This is one of my favorite stamping papers. If you want to stamp, you cannot get anything better than Whisper White cardstock, but with this particular paper you are always going to see that first stroke of ink, while you won't get that on Bristol paper or watercolor papers. Okay, so my intention is just to show you that there are special papers for each thing, but when you have any kind of paper like this beautiful Whisper White cardstock, you can also apply a coat of color or pencil colors, and they are going to act like a protective coat there, or also, how I can say that, they are going to resist the water colors, but they are also going to blend really nicely. So you can also blend your pencils with water-based inks or markers to add a vibrant and intense color to your stamped images. So that's a big tip I wanted to share with you today as well. And you can also add shadows and several other kind of textures using the water-based inks or markers. I'm going to add a little bit of this pink color from the hat on the Santa cheeks, also to add some vibrancy there as well. And I'm going to grab a gray marker also to use here and there and add a couple of shadows there as well. I also noticed that some colors of inks won't run at all on that cardstock. They are going to stay there like a stain. But look at that, just by applying it on the color pencils, they do their job. So that's it. You can transform any cardstock in a waterproof cardstock by applying color pencils just before applying the watercolor. Okay? And after applying those watercolor washes, yes, you can come again with your pencils and add more layers of color pencil on top. I really like to add black to create shadows and also purple or dark blue. And after laying down those dark shades of color, I like to use my blending tool to soften the color. And it's exactly the same with watercolors that with pencils. I always use a blending tool after laying down the darker colors. So I'm going to use now this NUVO glue pen. I'm allowing to dry this glue, and then I'm going to add glitter. I cannot leave this Santa alone, so I keep adding colors here and there in at any moment, and that's fine. You can do that the whole time. You can check and fix the color as many times as you want. And when your water washes are dry, you can use a super fine tip pen like this one here, just to bring so many of those lines to life again. I'm going to trim the Santa with scissors, and now I'm going to use a black pencil to outline or to trace kind of line at the edges of this image. This is a tip by Kathy from the Daily Marker. I think everybody knows Kathy. She's amazing. So she used a Memento black pen to do this because the Memento black pen doesn't bleed, and so this pencil. So I'm safe using a pencil color. If you are going to use a water-based marker, it can bleed, or an alcohol marker is going to bleed as well on the edges of your die cuts. Now I'm going to bring all the pieces of my card, and I'm going to show you another thing I do just to make this banner to pop a little bit more. And I'm just going to add a hint of color. This is a black polychromo color pencil, and I'm going to add that color just there, and I'm going to blend and soften that color using this blending tool like so. So you can see how such a small detail make such huge difference in that banner. Look at that. It's the same flat banner, but they look completely different. It adds dimension, it adds interest. So that's what you can add when using your color pencils on stamped images. Okay, so assembling the card is the easiest part. I'm going to be using dimensionals to stick the Santa face on that topper, just like that. I'm going to use a scoring tool just to give a little bit of shape to those banners. I'm going to glue the banners down. I'm going to apply only glue at the ends of the banner, so the center of the banner is not touching the paper there. Now I'm going to grab the craft foam pads and I'm going to glue them in the back of these toppers just to add a little bit of dimension. You can skip this step if you want to. And I feel the Santa needs some white dots, and I'm applying those white dots right now. You can also apply black dots here and there. And then I glue the whole topper just like that. And then I wrap around a piece of twine. I do this twice and I tie a knot and I make a little bow like so. And if you notice, I have rotated the card, so I'm imagining this is my shoes and I'm tying the lace of my shoes. So I cannot do this in another way. So I also wanted to tell you that. It's a very silly tip, but it helps me a lot to think how to make the bows. Now I'm going to glue this panel on a neutral piece of cardstock. And I like to glue this down on a card base that I just bought ready to go. It's a pre-scored card base, so I like to trim this to the size, and I use my maxi guillotine to do that. And this card is going to fit in a C6 envelope. So there you go, all the colors option I have for you today. You can create this in any color you like. I also added more white dots all over the panels, and I also use NUVO drops on those little cherries on the leaves around the Santa. So that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this video, and happy card making day everyone. I hope you can also put in practice some of the tips and techniques I have explained today in your paper craft projects, and do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Visit my blog for more ideas and inspiration, and you can also purchase any of the products I have used in this video from the links in the video description or over my blog. Thank you very much for watching and happy crafting! Bye!